Okay, so this is part 2 of a video thing I've been doing, catching up with some of the stuff I got to play or see running at Summer Game Fest and the surrounding events. I couldn't fit them all in one video, so I have a lot more to talk about today. And again, I said it in the last video, these games are all works in progress, so I just kind of wanted to come here and give you guys some info, some impressions. I can't come down super hard on a game one way or another because, again, they're works in progress. Some of them, many of them, could be delayed. In the other video, I talked about Remnant 2, Alan Wake 2, Immortals of Avium, Avatar, Mortal Kombat 1. So check out that one if you haven't already. I'll link that somewhere here. I don't know where exactly, but let's just jump in. The first game I got to see a lot more of, I got to see it running in real time, was Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, this one is significant for me, as you guys probably know. I've talked about it a lot. I am dying for a return to the old school Assassin's Creed formula. Say what you will with some of its flaws and stuff, I just really like that. Those are my Assassin's Creed games. The new ones are fine, but not really as much of my cup of tea. So Assassin's Creed Mirage, I'm an easy mark for it because it is literally just going back to like simple city. You're a guy in like a white assassin's robe with a red sash, and you're going around and you're doing simple assassination missions, you're hiding in crowds, you're doing the simple parkour. Like, that's the stuff I want, and that's very much what it is here. So essentially what you guys saw, if you watched the Ubisoft event, you got to see gameplay. I got to see like a real-time demo of that, and I got to see more. I got to see it not edited, the character taking their time, the person playing it, also seeing slightly different approaches to some of the encounters, and just a little bit more of the stealth. The stealth does seem a bit better. It's still hard to quite put my finger on, but it was nice to confirm with my own eyes that like you can take different approaches to things. I still think it's interesting that they didn't show a main black box mission. They just showed like a side mission. I think it's a weird way to show off the game, but I got to see a bit more mount stuff with a camel, and the horses are also going to be in the game, and you can ride them in the city, but also in the surrounding outskirts areas outside of the city. It seems like a lot of the progression is tied to you getting tools. You got to see in the videos Basim getting like a blow dart thing. I got to see a little bit more about how some of those worked, but also how those can progress and you can actually upgrade those a little bit, I believe. Ultimately, I don't have too much more to add with this one other than I saw it with my eyes, but I still have a lot of questions. Like, how are they going to take the old and make it feel a little bit fresh? We got to see like using the eagle vision, the eagle flying around. That's a good hybrid of new and old, but I'm curious to see how they can make it just not feel completely derivative of the old ones and have a little something special in it. Maybe it was that like teleport move where he like zipped two different people, like a mark and execute type thing. I'm curious to see how there's going to be more of that. In my brain, that doesn't make sense, like how that works, but whatever. They explained it, whatever. We still do have more time before this drops. I still have more questions, but I'll have more Ubisoft games to talk about in a little bit. The next one I did want to highlight is Square Enix's Foam Stars. Yeah, I played this. This is the one that is kind of, a lot of people were saying it's like Square Enix's spin on Splatoon. And yeah, it's a pretty straightforward Splatoon-like, although the flow is a little bit different. It's based a little bit more on the actual killing, or in this, it's essentially ring outs. So you pick these highly specialized different characters that, to be honest, it took me a long time to get used to one of them. Like their powers just didn't feel right until I found one character that I really clicked with. But they all have completely different abilities and weapon types and variety to them. I was surprised how different they all were. And having a balanced party seems to really kind of help things out, because I was thankfully on a good team who were able to coordinate and know what we were doing. But you're feeling very empty and small maps with this soapy foam. You know, you're shooting it everywhere, whether you have like a big ranged gun that will put big splatters of it everywhere, or just here and there, or you're lobbing it, whatever. So then when there's foam on the ground, you're able to easily surfboard through it and get around quicker. Your character's pretty slow without it. And obviously you're only fast in your foam, you're slower in the enemy's foam. So you want to keep that control while also targeting and hitting the enemies with either your special abilities or the foam itself. The foam allows you to not only surf, but certain abilities can embrace like hiding in the foam, using the foam to your advantage in other ways, which was actually pretty interesting to kind of experiment with. But you're essentially foaming up your enemies, and then if they get foamed up enough, they'll like turn into kind of like a snowball, and then you want to surf your way to them and hit them and whack their snowball out of bounds, and then that counts as a kill. Now, interestingly enough, the other team can revive one of their snowball stuck people by surfing into them. So if you hit an enemy and have them go spiraling out of the ring, but somebody else surfs in time and hits them back, then you're good. And it's kind of like a back and forth and a save. Most of the time, though, if like you're not a skilled player, you're just going to get whacked out of ring. But still, it kind of builds on that. And then one person on each team gets to be kind of designated the VIP or the star. And then you need to protect that one player, because that's how you can win, is if you take out the other team's like VIP, so to speak. And it was just like a good, reasonable amount of fun. I went into this with zero expectations, and I still don't know if this is going to like attach and find an audience. The Splatoon audience is very specific, very small. This is only going to be on PlayStation, so is it going to be PlayStation Splatoon? I don't know for sure what the attach rate is going to be, but like if I downloaded this for free and played it for a little while, like I wouldn't be mad. I had completely written it off, but then when I got my hands on it, I was like, oh, okay, there's something here. Another thing I got to see running on an Xbox development kit was Forza Motorsport, and I got to see a walkthrough of it, and yes, like the graphics are great. Look at the lighting, look at the frame rates, look at the resolution, all that stuff that we always talk about with car games. But what I found more interesting is the developers kind of rethinking the Forza loop, the Forza progression, where they seem very self-aware of the fact that the last couple of games, both Horizon and Motorsports proper, they've kind of like laxed thing, like they've opened things up a little bit and let you kind of jump in and get whatever car you want and do whatever you want. And there's a little bit of like something lost there. So they wanted to bring back a little bit of car PG, a little bit of loop, a little bit of progression, a little bit of an addiction towards you building out your car, not just unlocking and buying a car instantly. The developers actually used built, not bought a lot when they were talking up how it works. And that's, as for someone who kind of appreciates car stuff, I like that approach. Essentially now what you're doing in every race is like everything you do can kind of rank you up, build you up a little bit. Taking corners now, like in the top right corner on the screen on the HUD, like you'll actually be graded on how well you take a corner, the speed, the amount of braking, the accuracy of where you hit the turn, and you'll be graded and given a little XP. So you're moment to moment growing, building up your XP, and eventually you're able to go and dive into your car and build it out and spec it out and upgrade it, get better tires, get a turbo thing, get different exhaust, different transmission, like all that type of stuff, and improve your car. And there's going to be detailed sound levels for how the cars sound with different things added to them. And again, it's like that crazy car game, insane obsession with detail like that you can't help but appreciate. But again, it's just the fact that they're kind of rethinking the loop and they want to get you hooked on one car and making that car better. That's something I wanted to see, just something a little bit different, a little bit of a change up for the main Forza games, which like I found them to be solid, but getting a little bit dry after a while. So hopefully this changes things up, because yes, again, it's going to have better graphics. I got to see it. Cool, amazing. But I'm glad that they're thinking about the game side, the progression loop side. That's important. I also got to play Final Fantasy Ever Crisis Mobile, which is, again, not something I'd normally be into. Not a mobile game player for the most part, but Final Fantasy and Square Enix has always tried to do different stuff with mobile. It's kind of interesting, at least. And that seems to be the case here, where they're giving you a full Final Fantasy VII game, but it's like a remix. It's like a mix-up between the original Final Fantasy VII, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, Crisis Core. It's incorporating all these elements and kind of mixing them around. And essentially what I got to do was play through the beginning of the game, like the whole Mako reactor stuff. And you have your little new chibi art style, walking around the environments and getting into random RPG battles. Like, you know, you'll walk like 10 feet, you get into the Mako ladder, and then all of a sudden, psh, and a battle starts. Then the battle has the Final Fantasy VII Remake graphics, and it's just stunning and cool, and you're fighting these enemies that you know and have seen since forever if you've played Final Fantasy VII from back in the day. But the battles are very mobile. It's very hands-off. You're kind of just managing your supers, like your special attacks, your magic attacks, and stuff like that. Once meter's full, your limit break, you're managing like shifting from offensive or defensive type things. But it seems like it's going to be pretty straightforward and simple. But the developers told me that you can actually also switch between the chibi style of them walking around and the actual PS1 graphics style of them, which is pretty cool. And they're not doing like a Final Fantasy VII remake thing where like it cuts short. Like apparently they're doing the whole Final Fantasy VII and like surrounding thing within this, which is a pretty interesting experience. But again, it's mobile, so I don't have the highest hopes. But they had recreated like a lot of Final Fantasy 15 on mobile in creative ways. Not for me necessarily, but just it's out there and I wanted to talk about what I got to check out with it. I still don't know how they're gonna like monetize it. They're offering up like an open beta period where you can access it, which I don't know why a game like this needs to be an open beta, but hey, whatever. Something really cool I played was something that you got to see at the Xbox event thing where they showed off a bunch of new games, and this was that top-down kind of Hades-like game from the developers of Spiritfarer. This game is called 33 Immortals, and I got to play this, and I had a hell of a good time. It is incredibly simple. But essentially, it's like a bunch of people get into a lobby and drop into this game, right? And when you drop in, you're a very simple little character and you're given a randomized weapon. For us, it was either like a melee weapon or a ranged weapon, and that was it. But it's those types of games where you navigate through a map and enemies are coming at you at all sides and you're trying to take them all out. And if you're a coordinated little group, it can get pretty fun as you blast through things, because you also can essentially press a special button and drop down your special attack, which then drops 3 little portals that other team members need to run over to and also get in and press a button in order to activate it. It's not as easy as just pressing the button. And that will be like more powerful ranged attacks that just come down from the sky, or like a little healing thing that you drop. But like, you need coordination with your team members. And once you get into a good flow, it's pretty cool because you go through this map. Then there's also points on the map where you can go into a quick little dungeon and fight a little sub boss and get some loot, because there is that type of loot thing, kind of like a Dead Cells style system of loot where you get one thing and you have certain slots for it. You either take it or you drop your other thing and you put that in. And the art style was really cool. Like the whole vibe of it, I really like that kind of almost hand-drawn style. We got to see that big boss, that like demon thing that looked like it was drawn from a He-Man cartoon. And the bosses are pretty challenging. The whole game is pretty challenging. It does this really good thing, like just how it does it. It paces it so it's like you start to get in a good groove with your team, whether you're communicating with them or not. You kind of get into a general flow, but then the game keeps introducing and escalating in ways that like will make you all scramble and freak out and learn how to work together again and tackle like a new thing that's introduced on screen. I just really liked it. It seemed like it's pretty interesting. This one is coming in 2024, and I just want to point out, like, it's a game that takes a lot of cool ideas from other games of this style, but makes their own creative new thing on it. People think all we get now are like remakes and re-releases and stuff like that, but this is just like a new game idea, and I had fun. Will that satisfaction, will that multiplayer payoff like actually feel satisfying for a full length of a game? I don't know for sure yet, but after jumping in a couple rounds, I thought it was pretty cool. Oh, but last but certainly not least, Prince of Persia and the Lost Crown. Now, I got to play a lot of this game, and I really want to talk about this one because I understand the skepticism somewhat. On the one hand, a lot of people were not into the reveal of this game because of like the hip hop music used in the trailer, which whatever. There's always types of music used in trailers that don't really either mesh with the actual thing, or it's just not a genre you like. It happens. I don't really care about that. That doesn't make me write off a game or a movie by any means. I mean, the amount of cover songs used in video game trailers is like, but the other thing is that the obvious thing is that you're not playing as the prince. The prince in this game is captured, and you're one of these like powerful immortal people who are just like powerful demigods that just kick ass in the land of Persia. And I get it. Like, it's been so long, and I wanted just another Prince of Persia game, and we're not getting that. We're getting this weird alternative thing. I don't know. It's a weird move. But after seeing that trailer and seeing like some of the anime stylized moments of it, and then actually playing it and playing the thing for like an hour or so, it does seem pretty cool. And I am over that whole like we're not playing as the prince thing, because hey, this is a pretty fun game. It is totally Metroidvania style with dashes of Hollow Knight and Prince of Persia magic, like just like the regular Prince of Persia stuff. You know, you die pretty quickly. Enemies are very challenging. It can be pretty unforgiving, but it encourages you exploring the map and finding new stuff and unlocking secrets. And then you get into Prince of Persia stuff, which I really like, where you're jumping, sliding, ducking, running over spike pit traps, jumping over pits, dodging booby traps. Like, that stuff was pretty satisfying. And then the combat itself, and I guess really some in-world puzzles and stuff, allows you to embrace time. You're going to have time powers. The one I got to experiment was like you essentially creating a clone of yourself and then whoop, warping back to your clone. So you can do that in combat by jumping over an enemy and then establishing a clone, jumping back, and then zipping back and forth. Very cool. It also controls pretty well because like this dude has a very satisfying backflip that just feels so right in the Prince of Persia thing. But the main moveset really is you attacking with a simple attack, or holding and pressing a button to unleash an ultimate attack that's like cinematic, and parrying and dodging. Like it's like one trigger is parry, one trigger is like dash dodge, and that's the main gist. So you're gonna be flying around like crazy, and parrying and learning enemy attack types is really important. That's the main thing, or you're gonna get your ass kicked. And I got my ass kicked a lot, especially towards a boss I got to face off with. I was getting pretty sweaty, but I liked the way a lot of that felt. There's like a ranged bow, or if you hold it, he throws a thing. Like there's a lot to your repertoire, and like there's the progression of getting seemingly more health, but the main thing is getting these little talismans that you can link on your necklace that give you different attributes. Makes sense. So the gameplay stuff for me, from what I got to see, was pretty good, pretty solid, and I'm curious to see how it gets harder, how more abilities work. Hopefully that doesn't screw anything up, but like I like that core gameplay. My only question that now remains is the story, is the not playing as a prince, as the prince thing worth it? I didn't get to see too much like personality. I saw one cutscene, that was it. I didn't really get to see too much personality of this character or the world they're fleshing out, really, despite some beautiful looking backdrops. Like I didn't really get too much substance as to what they're really doing here, like what the intention is. So that's my biggest question mark. So I get the skepticism, but at the very least, so far, it seems like it might be pretty fun to play. But again, we have to wait and see. A lot more could go down from now until launch. I think this game is coming like January 2024, so who knows? I just wanted to put my thoughts out there, give that one a fair shake, because that one's been getting pretty roasted, but that's like my honest opinion. I hope, if anything, that they just nail this game and people like it, and then they actually really give us more Prince of Persia, because it's been so long. And that was like my series. You know, the Prince of Persia kind of died out before I was talking about games online a lot, but like Prince of Persia was my shit, man. Anyway, those were some more Summer Game Fest and surrounding the Xbox, Ubisoft games I wanted to talk about. There are more that I couldn't quite fit, or I didn't have enough to say, so I'll be talking about them in other videos throughout the year or on the podcast. So that's really it. So if anything, just thank you for hanging around here and listening to me ramble about these games for so long. I'm just trying to talk about stuff I like here, stuff that interests me. So if you get that, clicking the like button helps me. Thank you. But I'm Jake Baldino. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, because video games, pizza's on me.